Okay, so we're recording at this point, and we will be including Senator King's recording also on our website, and also Zaylin and Marge's presentation that's pre-recorded. So people will be sent the link on Monday, and they'll have the opportunity to see our meeting, even if they couldn't make it today. And a lot of people are on vacation and said they'd like to see it, so that'll be great. And without further ado, because I'd love to get you all out by 10 o'clock like we promised, I'd like to introduce Sharon Handy, who's been our fearless leader for going on 5 years now, Sharon?
I think, yes, yeah. 2016 is when I became chair. Okay.
Go for it.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome you all to our 2021 annual meeting, our virtual meeting, and hopefully a year from now, we will all be together for an in-person annual meeting, just like the good old days in 2019. Just want to very quickly talk about the last year. For literacy volunteers, Androscoggin. I think it's safe to say that it was an extremely challenging year, probably the most challenging in our organization's history. The pandemic threw everything it had at us, but I think here we are 15 months later, and the pandemic challenged us, but it did not break us as an organization. During the course of the year, we received 2 rounds of funding through the Federal Paycheck Protection Program. We received just a shade under $10,000 in April of 2020. And then in February of this year, we received $10,362. We also successfully applied for a grant from the state of Maine, Maine Economic Recovery Grant, and that totaled just a little over $5,700. And then finally, we were surprised by a donation, an anonymous donation for $10,000. And all of these things helped us maintain our organization. Of course, we unfortunately had to cancel our largest fundraiser, Scrabble Fest, because of the pandemic, but I'm happy to report that Scrabble Fest will happen this year on October 17th at the High Street Congregational Church. We're moving forward with Scrabble. We invite you all to volunteer or form a team to help us out. WMTW TV has agreed to be our media sponsor once again, and WMTW Morning Show co-anchor Kathleen Jordan will be our MC for this year's event. So I just want to wrap up by saying that I salute each and every one of you. It is an honor to be associated with this organization and all of our fantastic volunteers, staff, and students. And it is, you know, I humbly accept another term as chair of the board. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Yay. My goodness.
Thanks, everyone.
What a heck of a year to be chairperson of a nonprofit, huh?
Yes, I can cross that off my bucket list.
There you go. Yeah, it's been one heck of a year, but we survived it. And not only did we survive it, but we've learned some new skills, and that will carry us forward. It will be able to help us reach more people. I just have something to show you. So this is what we looked like back in the spring of 2020. Can everybody see that? On our end, the program end, you know, we had quite a challenge because everything that we did, and our affiliate's been around for 47 years. Everything that we did was in person, you know, one-on-one tutoring. It's a pretty intimate thing. And we do a lot of hands-on work, especially if somebody has a learning disability or they don't have a lot of English. You know, it's a lot better if you can sit next to the person and share materials, be in the same room together, but that wasn't possible. We had to keep everybody safe. And so the first task, we formed a distance learning committee, and the first task was to figure out Zoom and to create a Zoom training that was specific for our volunteers to tutor one-on-one. And you can see this, our first meeting kind of looked like that. I don't think anybody had a beard or a mustache, but it's kind of what we looked like when we started. And it was a lot of work. People put in, we must have put in a couple hundred hours, each of us, on this, just taking a look at what works, what doesn't work, practicing. And then we got a small grant from the United Way, the local United Way, so that we could hire Lynn and also another retired teacher, Joy Spooky and Teeny, and they did a great job with all the information we gathered in putting together a really user-friendly and helpful Zoom training. And that's still in place, and we will still be using it because some people will still be meeting virtually, even though we can go back to in-person at this point. I had something else to show you here. One of the things that we discovered when we were figuring out Zoom and we were practicing, many of the people on the committee had grandchildren, and grandchildren turned out to be pretty fearless about the whole thing. They made the best Zoom practice buddies, and one precocious 5-year-old, he actually taught his dad how to use Zoom after he practiced it with his grandmother. So we thought that was pretty cool. I just had to mention that. We found that a sense of humor really went a long way in terms of coping with all of this. So from there, the next step was to figure out a virtual tutor training. And again, everything in person. We had a 12-hour tutor training in place, and we had to whittle it down because there's no way that people would want to do a virtual training that's 12 hours long. So we cut it back to 7 hours, and it came out really decent. It came out really well. I mean, we had a lot of hits and misses when we were practicing, but we're going to keep it because, again, there will be people that will want to tutor virtually. And the other thing I've found is that we're getting volunteers that are not necessarily from Androscoggin County, because they have the option to tutor virtually. And some retirees that like to travel, they can still meet with their students when they're away, because they can meet virtually now. And so reaching people in the rural areas, you know, it really has been a blessing in disguise. And the other thing we discovered is we really like the streamlined version. And so we're going to use it when we go back to in-person. It was really a very creative process and a very rewarding process, actually. So being pushed out of your comfort zone, of course, we were all pushed really hard, way out of our comfort zone, but we did have some blessings in disguise with all of this. And we're really pleased with the products that we came up with. So I just want to mention a couple other things. One is, and this is another good thing, there are affiliates, literacy volunteers affiliates all over Maine. And when all this went down, we started networking with one another. We'd meet virtually, we'd share information, and we pooled our resources so we could hire a woman named Robin Loverain, and she's a PhD. She's the guru for teaching people to work with English language learners in the state of Maine. And she gave us a really big discount because she loves what we do. And we were able to provide trainings, continuing education, virtually sessions with Robin for 9 months throughout this whole pandemic. And there's going to be a summer reading program that addresses diversity issues, equality issues, that's really powerful. And if you are interested, let me just give you a quick peek. Here it is. And you don't have to go to every single one. And because there's a grant involved, all of the books will be mailed to you for free. These are some of the books that are involved. But if you're interested, email me and I will send you the information. So that's going on this summer, and Robin is hosting it. Robin Loverain is hosting it. And that's another opportunity that came by because of all the networking that we did. So the volunteers all over the state had the opportunity to get more continuing education than they normally do with a really good expert. And, you know, we found that people like the virtual for training because, you know, Robin, what she was doing, because Maine is a big state, and what she was doing was like, she'd have a few sessions in our area and she'd have them in Bangor and she'd have them in Portland. But if you lived in the county, you know, northern Maine, you still had to drive a long way if you wanted to attend. So again, accessibility. So without further ado,
Talia,
yeah,
I'm sorry. May I interject just one quick thing?
sure.
In wrapping up our year, I overlooked what I think is a huge accomplishment for our agency, and that is the design and introduction of a new logo for LVA, Literacy Volunteers. I want to specifically thank Jim, Andy, Judy Vadamas, and Lisa Ward for serving on a committee and working with Sabrina Duong-Tron from IBEC Creative. IBEC Creative donated their services to create this fabulous logo for our agency. I think it not only you know, represents what we are all about, but I think it's something that's going to carry our agency into the future. So I want to thank IBEC Creative and the 3 board members who put in the time to come up with this terrific logo. So thanks very much, everybody. And Talia, take it away.
Okay, great. So I just want to acknowledge everyone who has been a part of this remarkable year. And I'd like to start with the board members, if I could. And since you can't stand up because we're not in person, if you could give a wave when I mention your name, our fearless leader, Sharon Handy, our board secretary, Judy Vardamus, and it was no joke taking minutes for virtual meetings, right, Judy? And tutor representative, Marge Patrick, Cecile Thornton, our expert with French, among other things, fundraising. Hope Heath, who's joined us this year. And by the way, Hope helped us put together this virtual annual meeting. And Lisa Ward, who has lent a lot of expertise and creativity. Thank you so much, you guys, for hanging in there and for being flexible and helping us survive this incredibly difficult year.
We can do anything now.
I know, right? We can do anything. I also want to acknowledge Sally Lunt. Sally, can you wave? Sally,
Yes.
Sally, her technical job description is administrative assistant, but man, she does everything. She designs and manages our website. She does a lot of our graphics for us. And she helped keep me sane. Sally, thank you. You did a fabulous job during a very difficult situation. And Lynn Bush, who was a Zoom trainer, fabulous Zoom trainer and tutor trainer, thank you so much for your service. And also Zaylene, who is our student speaker today. Thank you for coming, and I can't wait to show your video. It came out great. And last but not least, I do want to recognize Mr. Jim Handy, who has been with us for 10 years. He's been a chair, he's been a member at large, and he brings a lot of humor and creativity and a passion for advocacy for us, and we're gonna miss him. And there are board members who said, well, we just can't let him leave. But Jim is going on to a new exciting career, and he's got a lot of work ahead of him. But I know where he lives, so, you know, it is help. Did you want to say anything? Did you want to?
I've served on a number of community volunteer boards, and I think my tenure speaks for itself. I wouldn't have participated and gotten involved in an organization if we didn't have an effective board where meetings meant something and yielded results. And it's all because of certainly all of the board, but I think the board needs to remember that we only exist because we have outstanding community volunteers who are willing to go face to face and help other members of our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We'll miss you.
Yay! I want to add something to Jim because you know what, we were really fortunate. I think every board member adds depth of another type to the board, and I think we all appreciate it. Jim brought that depth while he was serving at the state level. He was able to bring us information that we might not have gotten otherwise, and he was able to advocate in different ways for us while he was there. And so I think, you know, Jim, we're not going to look for somebody else to replace you, but I think, you know, I really appreciate all that advocacy, and I think that we all do. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, thank you.
I might be able to convince him to be an occasional consultant.
There you go. I know you have a lot of pull in that area. Thank you, Sharon.
If she can afford me.
Normally we do student recognition and volunteer recognition, and we're not in a position this year to do that, but I do want to mention that there were tutors and students who figured it out. They met over the phone, or they met using Zoom, and it was not easy. And there were some incredible accomplishments in spite of the pandemic this year. And a perfect example of that is Zaylin and her tutor, Marge, and they have created a recording for us, a short one that I want to share with you. So hold on. Let's see, I'm going to disappear for a minute. Okay, let's see.